Alright YouTube, it's garden time once again. This outside bed is prepared now. I dug it out really deep, removed all the weeds and stuff that had been building up for a couple years. I hadn't done too much to it, and then I emptied a whole bale of sphagnum moss into here, and the result is really nice. It's a nice brown crumbly soil, much more organic than it was before. It's looking really good compared to what it was. And this is going to be herbs and flowers, sort of the stuff that animals won't attack because, you know, it's outside of the fence, so it's not really protected. It's 55 degrees right now, so it's rather nice out. Everything is fully thawed. I can work the soil. It's fairly warm. This bed hasn't had anything added to it yet. Technically, it doesn't really need anything. It got so much amendment last year that, and I could just basically hoe it up, spread it out, edge it, and make it look nice. But I will put some more humus in there at least, some composted manure and so forth. I want to raise it up another inch or so, but I'm going to wait because the stuff I've been using in here is really high quality, but it's a bit more expensive. And because this bed was really sort of nutrient drained, it didn't really have anything done to it for the better part of half a decade. You can see that big clump there that's still a little bit cold and compacted together. Because it was so drained of nutrients, I decided to go for the really good stuff here so that it would be really, really high quality. I won't have to do anything to this for several years after this edition, basically. But with the other beds that were already improved, I don't need quite as much fertility, so I'll just put some basic composted manure on them and they'll be fine. I still need about 2 more bags because there's one little patch here that hasn't been improved, but between the charcoal and the other amendments that I did add here and this new soil, this bed's going to be really, really good. It's fully raised almost now, but I do need those 2 bags of compost here. I put in another bale of the sphagnum moss because this was already fully improved. It just needed a little bit more added to it just to raise it up for aesthetic purposes, not really for fertility. You can see it's really, really nice crumbly soil. It already had a bunch of charcoal and compost added to it anyway, but you can see it's nice and crumbly. It's perfect. This is going to be herbs and flowers also, so I didn't need too much added to it. But over here, this big bed hasn't had anything added to it yet. Jury's still out on what I'm going to do with this. It's such a large bed that it needs an amazing amount of actual compost if I'm going to do anything worthy here. But I do want to turn this into the greens bed and actually have the corn and beans here or even on the side. You can see this has been mostly charcoaled in, about 2/3 done. I will be making 2 more loads of charcoal and that will finish this out, and then I simply have to add the compost to it, and I'll use the cheap stuff for that and the side bed. And then this is rhubarb. I need to separate those out, probably put something in there to raise it up, make it more aesthetically pleasing. But this end here actually doesn't need anything added to it. It was already under compost and I spread that out, and it's a good almost half a foot of solid half composted remnants that's actually here. It's really deep, it's really fertile, nice soil quality, it's full of worms as well. So I don't really need to do anything here other than, you know, basically plant it, essentially. And I might put the corn and beans here because there's enough room for 5 rows, which is what I wanted. That will be more than enough. And it would create a nice little border here right on the end. And then the perennials in here haven't quite woken up. Well, some of them have and some of them have. The poppy here definitely survived. That's already sprouting, and this one actually is sprouting too. I need to do a little bit of something with this, but because it's just perennials, I don't really need to improve the soil yet. This is just sort of for decoration. So 3 of the beds are basically done. I need a couple more bags of the good compost for this one, but you can see the difference as opposed to last year. You can see there's just some vegetative remains here, just a piece of cabbage and eggshells. It doesn't really matter. I've just been, because the compost pile got completely drained, and I took that out to make that side bed, and now I'm just piling brush. I don't have a composting setup quite yet, and I'm going to have to make that. But for right now, I'm just basically taking those organic remains and piling them in here. It'll just rot down into the soil, and it won't be a problem. I can just crush it up really fine and scatter it around, since none of the things I'm putting in here are going to be the sort of things that I'm planting. I don't have to worry about any diseases. And so yeah, the garden is thawed out, basically ready to go. I might get some little solar lights and put them around some of these beds too, because that'll be cool at night. It's going to be vastly different from what it was last year. Much more fertile, much more design involved, and probably a little bit less of the lettuce and things like that. More spinach though. My partner is a fan of spinach, so I'll be planting a huge amount of that. But yeah, I don't quite know. If I do improve that big bed, that'll be for the greens. Half of it'll be spinach, the other half will be like Swiss chard. I might put some leeks in there again, because leeks seem to like it actually here better than I thought. But you can see chamomile is still coming up everywhere. It has puffed up and it is starting to grow now, so spring is definitely here. There's a good 30 or 40 plants here. There's another 20 or 30 in the other bed. So I definitely need to do something with them. I'll probably put them in these two beds just for decoration around the herbs, because now that the soil is so much better, those herbs will grow a lot better than they did last year. They didn't do too badly last year, but I want them to be bigger and, you know, more flush with herbiness. They smell really good. Even clearing out the dead brush in the herb bed here from last year, you could smell the basil, you could smell the lavender and the oregano and so forth. It smelled really good. But the sphagnum moss, it's about $10 a bale, but when it's actually compressed, so when you open the bale up, you got to realize it puffs up over the sides of that wheelbarrow, and it's like a double load. One bale is enough for any of these beds, really. I might put a bale in here as well with the compost just to make it even more fertile, because it really needed a lot of this bed really needed a hell of a lot of work. You can see some of this crumbly stuff, but you can see there's quite a depth of this material, and then when I'm ready to plant, I'll just sort of mulch it into the top 4 or 5 inches, and it'll be nice and organic, and it'll be ready to go. But I haven't really fully smoothed it out or anything, but you can see it's a couple inches higher than it was, and it's actually a raised bed now, which is kind of what I wanted. But at least 2, maybe a 3rd bag of the more expensive mix, which is higher quality. And then the rest I'm going to go cheap, because for something like spinach, you don't need quite as much fertility, honestly. For some of the plants, some plants need more fertility than others. Some plants need a lot, and some plants, like beans, they don't need anything really. You can plant them anywhere. You can plant them in a bucket of sand and they'll grow. The only reason I'm even planting beans, because I don't really eat them, is around the corn to restore nitrogen. So yeah, everything's looking pretty good. The perennials are starting to come back. I've moved a lot of them around. These irises here, I didn't get to separating all of them last fall, so I'm going to chop that into 4 or 5 bits and put those on the side and in the front of the house, or next to the garage, and then I'll probably dump another bag of that compost in there, because there'll be a big pit left where the iris roots and bulbs used to be. I'll probably leave the clump that's over there just for decoration purposes though. So yeah, the garden is starting to wake up, and it's already looking way better than it did last year. Now I'm well ahead, a couple weeks ahead really, weather-wise. That's about all. Peace out.